Hello, and welcome to Through the Smoke, once again. I am David the Funk Master Footle.
I'm Bobby, Lord, Master, Chester, Master, Chester, Master, Chester, Master, and Esquire the Third, Fabian.
You can call me Jesse.
And I'm Eric.
So, tonight we have something interesting that we're going to be busting out. These are the new Spectre line of cigars. These are a bit different than most cigars, pretty much any cigar currently on the market. They have latakia tobacco rolled into them. And for you pipe smokers out there, you're all familiar.
You know what latakia is.
Yeah.
For those of you not well versed in latakia, it's quite possibly my favorite tobacco.
Yeah.
But
crazy son of a bitch.
yeah, but what it is, and there actually is a little bit of history and backstory with it. But it predominantly, the reason we call it latakia is because predominantly it comes from the Syrian port town of Latakia, is where it normally ships out of. But there are actually two distinct blends of Latakia. One of them is Cyprian, which is prepared on the Isle of Cyprus, and then there's Syrian Latakia. And Latakia is normally a Turkish or Oriental leaf that has been dried and cured in barns over cedar or oak fires. So it's actually smoked just like you would a meat or anything else like that. So it adds this nice barbecue-y richness to just about everything. It's fantastic.
According to the makers, this is Cyprian latakia.
For obvious reasons.
Yes.
Given the political climate in Syria.
Yeah,
It's a little difficult to get Syrian latakia.
I really don't think anything's coming out of Syria right now.
For a while.
I haven't opened the box. I got this. It's a 10 box. I got this from pipesandscigars.com. They had a little special going on when it first came out. Came with a free torch lighter. Pretty fancy one.
Yeah.
So let's open this sucker up.
For you cigar enthusiasts, the blender is AJ Fernandez.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to mention that. Sorry.
So, Man of War cigars, San Lotano, really pretty hot blender in the cigar market these days.
Yeah. So it's not like some no-name or like startup. This is someone who is well versed in cigars and quality cigars.
It's a knowledgeable, respectable cigar maker. So
what's kind of cool is it has this little cutout of what's like a tobacco plant on this little seal here.
it's a fun box.
And if only you could. Yeah, you can smell it.
Can you smell back yet?
Yeah, I don't think so. So one for you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
One for you.
Thank you.
And one for me. So to go along with this, we got some house blend coffee from the Canyon location of the 806 coffee shop here in Canyon, Texas. Oh wow!
You can smell it.
Oh yeah.
Man.
Yes, this is like.
Who smoked my cigar?
Yeah.
I know.
And some Cyprian.
Yeah.
We brewed some coffee for ourselves tonight because we figured that we're trying this new cigar. We shouldn't necessarily have any booze or anything like that. We want to be serious tasting. And actually, coffee can help cleanse the palate. Unless you get like some strange blend. But we brewed a pot of coffee and then we poured our cups and then we were out. And we had no more coffee grounds or coffee beans or anything. So we walked down the block, or I should say I walked down the block, and luckily one of our friends was working behind the counter, and she hooked us up with a house blend, a whole, I just walked down there with a pot, and she just took it behind the counter and filled it up for us. So we're set for tonight, and her husband may be stopping by later. We'll see if he does, because he is a big latakia fiend. He loves it. So.
Speaking of which, coffee.
It's a good thing we went and got some.
Let's get down to business.
Yes, this is from the 806 Canyon, Texas.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to try something I saw from the little video podcast blog things from Cigar Aficionado. I'm going to try the 3-match method. Now granted, these are shorter matches than they use, so I'll pull up 4 for myself. But the whole idea here is that you actually don't cut the cigar until after it's lit. So
some observations right off the bat. You have an obnoxiously large band. I'm going to take that off.
I took mine off already.
The wrapper itself, I believe it's a Maduro wrapper, correct? It's got a couple of prominent veins. A very, very toothy wrapper, this one. So sometimes that means good, sometimes that means bad. We'll find out shortly. And you can see, yeah, Bobby cut his, and you can see in the end that jet black tobacco, that's our latakia.
oh wow, yeah.
And they do have a slightly smoky scent.
Very reminiscent of like almost like cured smoked meat because it has been smoked.
We'll get quiet here and concentrate on lighting our.
So the 3 mash method that was taught on Cigar Aficionado, I like to try it on cigars that are a little bit more special, or I have time to do this on. It's not just like a pick up some crazy, like just everyday cigar, and when I want a cigar, I'll do this. No, this is for special occasions when I have time, stuff like that. Because as you can see, Jesse already has his lit up. Harry already has his lit up. Are you doing like a pseudo one?
I'm doing a pseudo.
Yeah, okay, so you cut yours, so...
I'll probably go through 2 matches.
Yeah.
So automatically, you start off with that nice mellow creaminess that immediately reminds me of a good English blend the very first time you light it. And then the Maduro really comes through. So sweet and savory so far. Well balanced.
2 match technique.
Yes. And this one will do it for me. Where's that cigar? Thank you. Alrighty. And we'll do a little snip. Muzzle top, it's a boy.
Fantastic.
And there we have it.
Yeah, that is.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean now. That is really
Sweet and
interesting.
creamy.
You get that creaminess off of a good English blend the first puff. And then the Maduro wrapper kind of takes over.
Yeah.
And that latakia takes a big back seat.
Yeah.
There's still a smokiness,
Yeah.
but I like how the sweetness of the Maduro wrapper complements the latakia.
Yeah. It reminds me of like eating something salty and then like wanting something sweet or vice versa.
Oh, salted
You get
caramel.
a blend of the 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
like sea salt caramel or something
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. I really enjoy eating Pringles whenever I've just eaten a Snickers bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or why they put like peanuts into different
Right.
things like that to get the balance.
Peanuts and Coke.
Yeah.
Same thing. I do that.
Or why they have bar nuts.
Bar nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
So we decided not to go any booze tonight. I feel like maybe we'll regret that once we finish these cigars and
Yeah.
we're kind of itching for.
Yeah, I almost brought up a bottle of scotch I bought.
Really?
Speaking of scotch, when before I came here, and this is the reason why I was a little bit late getting here, my father was given a very nice bottle of scotch, 18-year-old scotch from my mother, and we all had a glass together.
Oh, very cool.
It was very good. It was a,
Fantastic.
let's see, Glenmorangie. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Glenmorangie.
Yeah.
18-year-old, extremely rare. Highland single malt Scotch whiskey. It was
Interesting.
very, very scrumptious.
Nah.
Sadly, I'm not very big into scotch.
Well,
More for me.
Yeah, I like tequila.
I'm a rum drinker.
And
Tequila as well.
yeah, I mean, I can appreciate a good scotch. However, I have found that anything younger than 18 years starts just burning.
If it's
Yeah,
illegal
18
for me, then I can't have it.
Yeah, like if the liquor cannot drink itself legally in the United States, why bother?
I have the same problem, especially with just regular whiskeys. I get extraordinarily bad heartburn after a glass or two, so I refrain from most whiskeys. I'll have maybe a glass of scotch here or there.
Yeah, I get it after the first sip or two. Like
It's
Yeah.
painful. It's for days, and it's miserable. It sucks.
Are you smelling any latakia in the smoke itself?
A little, a dash. I catch a hint of that.
The only, I would say yes, but the only thing that I have trepidation about is because I just took a puff, so I still have that flavoring on my tongue, which dictates what I'm smelling as well.
And you know how it is. If you're smoking it, you don't really smell the room note as well as a third party would.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting if like Josh shows up and all of a
he's
sudden
immediately like, oh, let it go.
walks into this. So hopefully he will show up and he can give you a third person.
I do smell the smokiness. I noticed that in general, most cigar smokes are pretty rough on the nose and eyes, and this doesn't seem to.
Oh yeah, I can get that sometimes when I'm wearing my glasses. If the
It's like a
smoke,
trap.
Yeah, and you're like,
right in there, and it's just
oh,
like
it's miserable. Yeah.
yeah, nice smoky eye.
It's a new kind of hurt. It sucks.
Well, new kind of hurt.
That's a yes.
Talking about hurt, I threw out my back on Sunday, and I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know what I did. I mean, my wife wanted to go to church on Sunday, and so I went with her, and I was and I was feeling kind of like the good Jewish husband I am. I went with my wife to church, right? I felt a little bit stiff and sore that morning as we went, and then getting home after sitting in the pews, I was still a little bit stiff and sore. We ate lunch, and then I just lay down in the bed real quick, and I couldn't get back up. I mean, I just could not stand up. I went to stand up to go to the washroom, and I nearly fell down from pain, and I had to crawl to the bathroom. It was awful, and I spent Sunday, like the rest of Sundays, from noon on, all of Monday, and then all of Tuesday up until about like 2:30, just in bed.
Wow.
And I would get up to go to the washroom, and that was it. The rest of the time, if Jenny was home, she would bring me food, bring me water, and I would just lie there. And so I'm up and around now. I went to the doctor and was given a shot of Toradol. And then
you can tell he goes to the doctor more often than the rest of us.
yeah, and then prescribed another medication. It's actually a steroid, Medrol. It's like methylpropyl, whatever.
Something or other
I know.
that makes me feel good.
Something dark side.
Yeah. And so I've been walking around with a cane, and but then the little rubber stopper that gives grip on the bottom of my cane wore through today, and so I was walking, and all of a sudden I hit tile, and all of a sudden my cane just kind of went whoop, and I'm just like, you know, I almost think it's more dangerous to walk with this thing now.
You need more on my bubble stick?
Yeah. So, but it's a nice cane. It was one of my ebony ones.
Oh yeah.
So I love that thing.
Beautiful
It's sturdy. But so I've been kind of feeling it out, and I have a history of back pain anyway, because I have 2 herniated discs, and but I haven't had any flare up that's been as bad as this in years.
Yeah.
So, but
It could have been just you turning funny in your sleep. Man.
yeah, I know. And that's what's weird. Like, you can sneeze and you know
Throw your back
out to the point where you can't walk.
The
And
time there, I've had that kind of pain once, and it was very similar. I had to lay in bed. I couldn't get up. You know, I had to have help getting out of bed. But it happened. I was moving a locker, and I set it down and moved like 3 steps, and then on that 3rd step, I just like collapsed and fell to the ground. I couldn't move.
Yep.
So I don't even know what caused it. I mean, it could have been, I guess, something delayed reaction from that.
And
but
you just feel so helpless.
I
too.
know.
And you're just like, "Ugh." You're like a turtle that's been turned over. It's like,
I'm falling and I can't get up.
my legs are just kind of, you know, pedaling in the air. And I'm just like, so. Well, my wife and I were up in Chicago over the past holidays and getting married. Jesse watched our kids. And I say kids because they're not kids, they're pets. We have a salamander, a skink, and a tarantula. Regina, the salamander, Alfred, the skink, and Sandusky the tarantula.
Blah.
Which I've told some people that the tarantula's name is Sandusky, and they thought I was trying to be ironic with like that whole Penn State thing.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, what do you mean? Oh no, I wasn't going for that at all, because that's kind of not
Yeah.
like that's a
low blow.
yeah.
That's a low
So but today I took it out, took him for a walk in my hands, and this is our
Arachnophobe.
Yep.
Arachnophobe.
every group of friends has one.
Yep.
That is just
The token arachnophobe.
Yeah.
ooked out, just like
You know, growing up, I grew up in an arid part of Texas, and we had legitimate camel spiders. And when I say camel spiders, I mean I've found camel spiders in my room that were, you know, anywhere from 1 inch to 2.5, 3 inches. I mean they're he's already freaked out.
just the talking about it.
And I can guarantee you that, in general, the look of camel spiders makes them look like they were created from the ash of burnt angels and the broken dreams of children. That's what they look like.
I think they're kind of cute. But that's what I'm studying.
That's your study.
Yeah,
that's
like
your field of study.
That is what I'm studying for my master's and then eventually my PhD.
Exactly.
And hopefully that's going to be my career, is camel
Yes.
spiders.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
for me growing up, tarantulas and other normal spiders, because camel spiders aren't actually spiders.
Yeah.
But,
Different order of rank.
yeah. So regular spiders, with the exception of like, you know, the recluses and the black widows, and then like tarantulas and stuff, weren't all that bad, because I knew that there were worse things out there.
And they were crawling around in your bedroom.
And
at
I
night.
had seen them before, so I was okay with it.
I had seen some pamphlets for advertising for Big Bend National Park, where I was doing my master's thesis research, and it shows this guy sleeping in a sleeping bag on the ground out in the park, just looking at the stars. And
Yeah,
that's like a picture.
dumbass.
And all I'm thinking is, I pitfall trapped, which is where you bury this little Tupperware container or anything like that into the ground where it's flush with the surface. And anything crawling along just kind of goes whoop and falls in. Right? And I would lay these traps out and put antifreeze in it as like a preservative and check them once a month. And the amount of things I caught in them. Ants, you know, spiders, scorpions, centipedes, millipedes, camel spiders, you know, daddy long legs, like the spectrum of different things. Then like the occasional rodent or like, you know, reptile would fall in as well. I mean, one time I actually lifted one of the traps out of the ground to empty it out and refill it, and there was a baby rattlesnake underneath it. And seeing all of this stuff, and just knowing the sheer quantity of things that are crawling around on the ground, just I would never do that.
The amount of things that crawled over that single small space.
Yeah, I mean, like, and this
In the course of a month.
this is a 5-inch diameter Tupperware container, so like that big around.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
And Big Bend National Park has more square miles inside the park borders than the state of Rhode Island. And so,
Texas.
yeah, that's Texas, right? I mean, driving down there, I passed by mountain ranges that people owned. Like, it's whole mountain ranges fit in their property, and it was still more.
I grew up.
Like, yeah, it's that much, yeah.
I grew up not terribly far from Big Bend, and my father grew up in Alpine, which is pretty much the last town you hit before you get Big Bend, and or at least large enough town to have things. And so I've been relatively familiar with a lot of the ranches and families down there, and it is amazing to know that you can see mountains in the Guadalupes and say, that's a family's mountain. You know, like, they have a whole mountain. And ranches down there, when you think of ranches, you think of acres and acres of land, but you don't realize that out there, they talk in sections, which sections are 640 acres, and it's a 1 square mile.
Yeah.
Ranches out there will have 30, 40, 50 sections.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you know, tens of thousands of acres by the time, you know, it's insane.
My truck broke down coming back from one of the trips, and it was a massive breakdown too. Like the spacer in between the transfer casing and attaching to the drive shaft of my truck shattered. Right? So it was a big one, and my drive shaft was like dragging on the ground. So, big one. And it was out in the middle of nowhere. No cell phone service, no nothing.
No.
So I just packed a bag with a bunch of like granola bars and trail food, a bunch of water bottles, grabbed my GPS and my phone, and I was going to start walking back the 25 miles towards the nearest town, which was Marathon. And I saw this car, or this truck, and I was waving it down, and they just thought I was being friendly and waving. And then they turned around and came back.
Yeah.
But it was this older couple. And they don't own one of the ranches out there, but they're managers of it. And they, as they put it, we're the managers of one of the smaller ranches down here. I'm like, oh, smaller? And they said, yeah, it's only 11,000 acres.
What's going on?
Only 11,000 acres. So, yeah, it's crazy. So
it's insane. It's large down. It's very large down there now. Very barren.
yeah. So we're gonna take a quick break, real quick, and then we'll see you in just a little bit. So welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. So over the break, he started singing the opening to
The Lion King.
The Lion King. That
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I don't know the words to it. I think it's like some South African language. I forget which one. But it reminded me that that I watched Beauty and the Beast the other night with my wife. It's one of her favorite movies of all time. And then I saw something online that just was funny, and it was like the Honest movie.
Oh no!
Right? And it was what is it called? Where you fall in love with your captor?
Stockholm
Sam. It was just the cover of Beauty and the Beast, and it just said Stockholm Syndrome in the same font. And I was really like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, it really fucking is! Like, no joke. Here I am thinking all along, like the build up of them getting closer and stuff like this. And from the get-go, though, the Beast was all about Belle, and Belle was just like, and then all of a sudden, he fed some birds in the snow, and I hit him with a snowball, and I'm just like, holy shit!
Stockholm Syndrome.
So, it made me think, like, what have I been truly missing,
out of
things?
Disney
Yeah,
movies? Well,
I mean, and they're brilliant. Don't get me wrong. Like even some of like the lyrics to the songs are just so well thought out. Like the Gaston song, when they're coming up with the plan and just continuing, they start talking in song and following the same rhythm, and it just flows. But it's trippy.
Yeah. Well, I think I was reading the other day, out of Disney and Pixar movies, there's only, you think you can count on one hand the number of Disney and Pixar movies that actually have both parents present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually one of them is...
Usually one of them is... Yeah, The Incredibles. I believe it was... well, you don't see it in Finding Nemo. I thought Finding Nemo was one. But
No, you will...
Because even the adult and even, Nemo and his dad.
Nemo's mom gets killed by the barracuda.
Yeah, well, not only that, but even the human child, I don't think.
Yeah, no.
Dory, was that her name?
Dory's
the fish. Dory's the fish.
Who was the brace bitch who kills him? Whoever. Starla?
Something like that.
Crazy little kid who
yeah,
killed the fish.
psycho kid. Anyways,
Darla.
I don't know.
I hate your... Oh, sorry.
Let's see. All I can think of is The Incredibles.
To Google!
Yeah, there we go. Right? Because Aladdin, Aladdin doesn't have any parents present. Except in the sequels.
Disney movies with both parents.
Yeah. Apparently this is like a heavily Googled thing.
Movie.answers.wikia.com.
Yeah.
Lady and the Tramp. Sleeping Beauty. 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, true.
Okay.
Mulan. The Incredibles. Peter Pan. Brave. Lion King 2. Tangled. And Hercules. Those are the only ones out of how many dozens of Disney movies.
But and I guess that's true, because I was thinking like Hercules, no, because who was Zeus's woman? I'm like, oh no, in the Disney version of Hercules, it was Zeus and Hera, and
they're all yeah. Okay, there's 10. There is 10.
Speaking of which, I actually watched Hercules the other day.
Yeah.
The Disney one, and it's mainly it was prompted because I'm reading the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series books, and they're very very entertaining. But it's also they're kind of interesting to learn, even in these books, about Greek mythology. You know, because you do learn quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of fun to compare what I've learned from the books. Now, how accurate it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it could be all made up. But it was kind of interesting to compare the books to the Hercules movie.
Yeah.
Which, you know, Hercules and who was the mother?
Hera. Well, in the Disney one.
In the Disney one.
Isn't it in the actual one? It's just some human.
Yeah, it's just some.
Because Hercules was a demigod.
Yeah,
Right? Zeus
sleeps.
was the father and had a.
Well, Zeus had a bunch of illegitimate kids.
Well, sure.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sure. Hey, you know, why not?
He got around.
Spread that god seed around.
As a man, as a swan, as I think a horse one point in time, or I don't know.
Well, all right then.
So, okay, and I don't want to bring up religion.
No.
Well, even though we were already talking about a pantheon, but anyway. So current religions, modern religions. But I saw a comic online that I just thought was hilarious.
Oh, no.
And it was Joseph, like Mary and Joe.
Yeah.
Joseph sitting in like a psychiatrist's chair, and he's just like, you know, with all of this talk of immaculate conception, why the hell did God have to fuck my wife?
Yeah.
And I was just like, but
Okay.
it was one of those like you can't quite say anything to refute it because it's just kind of funny, and you know it's blasphemous, and you know it's in poor taste, but at the same time, you know, yeah. One of those weird little jokes. So now that we've gotten a little bit further into the cigars,
Yes. Still wonderful.
Actually, it's
very
pretty much
enjoy
well
it.
the same flavor from so far in. I mean, I haven't noticed really much difference. It's gotten maybe a shade earlier, but
yeah.
in general, the flavor from the beginning all the way through now is about the same.
So a while back, I talked to Jesse about this, and he had a differing opinion. But for me, whenever I light up a cigar, in the first few puffs, I can tell whether or not I'm really going to like that cigar or not. Even though the foot traditionally, typically is the most flavor, is the better part of the cigar.
Well, to
correct?
me, the foot of a cigar almost always tastes good. Almost always, to me. Even if it's some sort of Cuban sandwich, $3,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know, the first couple puffs off of one of those, hey, this is a nice Connecticut.
All
But,
right, awesome.
You know, midpoint, they usually start to suck.
That's a make or break.
So, to me, it's not the foot that makes the cigar, it's this zone right in here.
Okay.
And if you can nub that sucker and, like, you know, be, like, barely hanging on to it with your fingers,
Use a roach clip.
Yeah.
that's a good cigar.
Okay.
Right, you do the pinky test. Is that what?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I do to determine whether or not a cigar is
She's got a
good. I
longer
look at
pinky
the. I
than
do have a
some
long pinky.
Yeah.
But if I can smoke it down past my pinky, that's a decent cigar. If I can smoke it down past the second joint, that's a good cigar. If I get way down here, you know, that's a really, really good cigar.
And you have done that a couple times where you like literally are
Right.
just.
I'd say that's probably 1 out of every 75 cigars.
Yeah. Yeah. And they call that area though the sweet spot. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the whole premise behind Nub's design.
Correct.
The line of Nubs that you cut out the first bit of the cigar. You could argue though that what makes the sweet spot is that you have already smoked so
all
much
the
because
way.
and like if you think about like hookahs, right? Where does the smoke filter through? And it's the water. You know, if you think about cigarettes, where does the smoke filter through? And it's the filter. So, like in menthol cigarettes, unless it's mentholated tobacco, most of the menthol flavoring is in the filter.
Yep.
Right? So that's where you're, or in the wrapper. And so, here, where does the smoke go through? It filters through the rest of the tobacco. So you are developing that last bit of smoke that you have out of the cigar as you smoke it.
Yeah.
So by just lopping off a cigar and making it shorter, the sweet spot would technically be even further.
It's more of a
Yes.
percent, like a
percentage
ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could also have to do with the volume of smoke,
True.
or the amount.
Nubs, I guess nubs are fatter too.
And a
Yes.
nub being a bigger ring gauge.
Bit of a cheddar.
You know, I guess the same amount of tobacco in like a Toro-sized cigar, just short.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm curious about is I've noticed the construction on this. The draw is slightly tight, but the cigar itself is slightly soft.
Yeah.
I have also been noticing chunks of the tobacco coming out of the cut.
Yep.
wrapper.
I've had that.
Yep.
I'm wondering if this is a medium or a short filler cigar or even a Cuban sandwich style. Part of that might not necessarily be a shot at quality, but it might be just the reality that maybe the latakia that they're sourcing
It's just a limit,
Is-
like a
is-
limitation of the tobacco.
right. It's a limitation of the tobacco itself. Now, I'd like, if these weren't, $5 a piece,
Yeah.
I'd be tempted to slice one open, and I might do that with the nub on this, and see kind of what we're looking at. But I'd be curious to find that out.
Yeah, but I do think also though that simply because latakia in and of itself, I don't want to say it's necessarily expensive, and it's not per se rare, but
It's a finer.
yeah, it's not your
Yeah.
everyday.
You're not gonna go out and get a
tobacco
big old like let's go
bag
get
of latakia. Usually latakia blends are a proportion of tobacco with a
little bit of
latakia
latakia.
in it, and that's what makes it a latakia
Well, it's a
blend.
condiment tobacco,
Yeah,
right?
a little goes a long way
Yes. Yes.
in tobacco blends, and so I feel like because of that, they want to take advantage of as much of it as possible. So when you're rolling a cigar, and when I was dabbling and rolling for a little bit, I would be cutting some of like the filler or anything like that to try and get the veins out as much as I can from the filler and the long spine of each leaf. And you use the knife to actually trim the leaves, and you're left with some really pretty minuscule strips of leftovers, and you don't want to throw those away.
They're still good. I mean,
Yeah,
It's still good
I mean,
tobacco.
exactly,
It's not as
especially for wrapper leaves and things like that.
It's just not as pretty.
Exactly, and so you'll throw that in. And my thought is that they're probably doing that to even a higher degree. In
They're
that,
using literally every bit they can.
get every bit of latakia that you can, because why would you waste that?
Right.
So either that, or they just don't need that much latakia in it.
Yeah.
And at which point, they can just sprinkle it in here and there in the filler,
Yeah,
and
they
that's
top it
enough.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
So, okay, and this is the first time I've heard the term Cuban sandwich with regards to a cigar. And I've looked into different styles of fillers and stuff like that, but I've never heard the term Cuban sandwich. So what do you mean?
It's a mixture of long and short fillers.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought so, but
So
Kogi bun ingredients.
Right. Kind of.
Okay. Okay.
And it to me, a Cuban sandwich cigar is probably better quality than a short filler cigar.
yeah, because there's still some long filler in
Right.
it.
And that's not a jab at short filler cigars, because you can have fantastic short filler cigars, but
Yeah.
You know what you're doing.
typically short filler cigars are made from scraps, and they're made from inferior types of leaf.
Yeah.
Hence the negative connotation with short filler
Oh.
style cigars.
Made an ash of yourself.
Made
Just
an
made
ash.
an ash of yourself.
Yeah.
No.
That was
It was a giant
Yeah,
ash.
it was an inch and a half. It was a nice shapely one. So
Shapely ash. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, like if you can't see from here, but I had like a big little chunk come out. So
I've had a couple of mine.
divot. Like a
Yeah, I've had.
So my draw has opened up substantially since that little piece came out. So
These are a cigar that might benefit then from a punch,
yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to a
Okay.
guillotine cutter.
which a punch did come
Uh-huh.
with it, because I got the free lighter, and there is a punch on here.
Or a
It is, I
V-cut.
guess.
I'm
Or a
not.
V-cut.
Oh, maybe a V cut.
Maybe a V-cut.
I'm not the biggest fan of a punch, simply because more often than not I can never truly get that punch out clean. I
okay.
usually end up ruining.
To me, it's
the
a draw
cap.
thing.
Yeah.
You know?
It is a tighter draw.
If I agree, because if I ever use a punch, I have to do like a 2 or 3 punch
Yeah.
and get a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But
Unless I can actually get what that cylinder that the punch cuts out, unless I can remove all of that in one go, I rarely get a good solid punch. Like I never feel like I've cut it successfully. That's why I just like the quick shink of a guillotine cutter. But you know, and there are some top of the line cutters out there that are punches.
Yeah.
And you can find a nice one, but I just struggle, and I don't want to struggle with my cigar.
Right.
You know, this is supposed to be an enjoyable experience from like the pulling out of the box to
everything.
Finally putting down the little nub you have at the end.
Speaking of nice cutters, this has been my favorite cutter I've ever used.
Yeah.
The best cutter I've ever used.
Zycar is a fantastic cutter.
Yeah.
This is the Zycar 1.
Yeah. And what's nice, they're self-sharpening.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So as you use it...
And they're lifetime guaranteed.
Yep.
So if anything ever goes wrong, they ever go dull completely or whatever, send it back in and they'll fix it.
Bam! And there's your lighter is
And if
like
they can't
that,
fix it,
isn't
they'll send you a new one, right?
My
Yeah.
lighters.
Oh, your lighter.
Yeah, I have a Zycar lighter. I have a Zycar pipe lighter. It's the same way. I can send it off at any time for any reason, and they'll either replace it or repair it, send it back to me, no big deal. Most mid to high level cigar, lighters, cutters, things like that, you normally get something along those lines for some of the bigger brands. So like Corona, they do that for their lighters. Zycar does it for their cutter and lighters. I mean, you can find it.
So,
Of course, you do spend a little bit more
In-
than that.
Yes.
in pipe tobacco, you'll often hear a brand name put out like a morning smoke, or like an after dinner smoke, or like a late evening or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
is it McClellan or what's the one that we get in the shop often? That we
Mac
had
Baron.
for was it Mac Baron? Where
I,
it
had
like
that, I got that Mac Baron
the-
Highland blend.
No.
Oh, it was a Villager?
Yeah, it was Villager.
Villager
It was
stuff
Villager.
that had early morning, midday,
Yes, that's right. Yes, that's
cocktail
right.
hour. Yeah.
And what's interesting is that I have seen latakia blends placed at different parts of the day. So there's no real consensus
Right.
as to when that type of tobacco, that type of tobacco is best. So when would you say this cigar would be good for?
I'm thinking evening.
I was thinking mid afternoon.
This is probably not what you want to start your morning off with, because it's a large cigar. This is the only size it comes in. And if you're looking, I personally can't feel a whole lot of Nick kick, but it is a Maduro wrapper. There might be some. Latakia has a little bit of body to it. So I'd say it would be an evening cigar for me. I like to smoke, I'm opposite almost with my pipe tobaccos and with my cigars. I'll smoke mild cigars in the morning. Connecticut's and Candelas.
Yeah.
Not many people smoke Candelas anymore. I enjoy them from time to time. And as I go through the day, I'll get something medium body, and then at the night, evening hours, I like, canes, something with a lot of lajero in it that's really gonna grab you by the scruff of the neck and
Three round.
Yeah.
slap you around.
Yeah. I'll slap and tickle.
Right.
Old sickle.
Now with pipe tobacco, one of the best morning smokes, Black Irish X.
Yes.
Oh my god.
That was the
Oh
best
my
breakfast
God.
I've ever had.
Yeah.
The only blend to give me hiccups. It's fantastic.
And it did.
It's-
It did for a minute.
I mean, so when you look at what I have left of this cigar, right? It's this long, black, brownish, cylinder turd looking thing, right?
Yep.
This is what Black Irish X looks like uncut. Oh wow, that's a nice ring. You just haloed my coffee. Right? It's a cord tobacco, so it's been
That was a good one.
twisted, right?
Right, they spin the leaves, and they come up with this big old long dog turd looking thing.
Yeah, and then they just lop off bits of
Yeah,
it and
so
sell it
Sounds
to
like
you.
a sausage.
Yeah, it does. It looks like a blood sausage.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And it tastes like
Oh my
almost like a
God.
blood
Blood
sausage.
sausage.
Black Irish X tastes like salty Russians, blood, creosote,
steak, burnt steak.
burnt steak.
It's pretty fantastic.
It's like licking a horse.
Tastes like fine Corinthian leather.
Right. In a good way.
Yeah.
Wait, how could licking a horse ever be in a good way?
Okay, some people, have you ever
Yeah!
have you ever gone out for a long ride on a horse? And like the horse perspiration combined with like horse manure and
you just get that smell and
it's a very, you know, like
it's very unique,
thick air that just gets all up in. Yeah, I know.
And some people find that extraordinarily pleasant.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
To each their own.
I'm just not sure that someone who finds that pleasant would go out and just go like, you know.
I understand.
But yes, and when we went to the pipe show that we talked about last podcast was about the Kansas City pipe show. We drove up and we left early in the morning from Amarillo to drive, and we had our breakfast of black Irish eggs. And it was a fantastic morning starter.
Finished off with a snickerdoodle cookie
yes,
from my mother.
Yes. Homemade snickerdoodles. I would honestly say, though, that I would do this as a morning cigar.
Yeah.
To me, it's not an obtrusive aftertaste.
No.
But it lingers, and I like that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, what can get me about a lot of English blend pipe tobaccos is that it almost becomes this film on my tongue of just latakia flavor. And anything I smoke after that is latakia flavor.
Yeah.
Now, I don't get to smoke as often as I would like. So, starting off in the morning with something that can linger would be nice. However, I like taking a sip of coffee afterwards, I'm able to kind of subdue that, and as my day goes on, it's not like I'm going to be tasting latakia in everything I drink or eat, or if I smoke later. And so, the interesting flavor profile for me, and the nice, rich textures of the flavors, I feel like would be an excellent way to start a morning. But this isn't like a work morning. Like this isn't waking up.
It's a Saturday morning. Right?
Yeah, it's like a Saturday morning when I've woken up of my own accord.
Right.
The alarm clock can go fuck itself for the time being, and I'm just able to kind of greet the day casually, like on my own time.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Every once in a while, those days are just mwah.
Yeah.
You just gotta savor them, you know.
You wake up and you don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Right. Now I do think it's interesting that everyone hates alarm clocks, but we buy them for the specific reason why we hate them.
Yep. They're that's fair.
They're necessary.
Yeah,
Necessary evil.
They're necessary, exactly. Yeah, they're.
I've never had a problem with alarm clocks.
I have always had a problem with alarm clocks.
That like like I hear that noise in like commercials or TV shows, and I'm like I feel myself cringing, and I'm like it's involuntary.
See, I have an analog bell alarm clock. It's fantastic.
I would have thrown that thing out the window.
It does its
You know,
job.
if I wouldn't get so pissed at it, I would probably need one of those that jumps off the table and goes and runs and hides.
Oh yeah.
I would need one of those to get my ass out of bed.
Yeah.
But I would get so mad at it once I found it that I threw it out the window.
Yeah, there is a cool alarm clock, and I feel like you as a gun aficionado would enjoy this. It's a target, and the alarm clock goes off. The only way to stop the alarm is you have to pull out the little like laser tag pistol and shoot the target and hit a bullseye.
I actually saw a meme, and it shows the stormtrooper sitting at a table like this. And before that, in the scene before, it has that alarm clock. And underneath it, it says, "I haven't slept for days." It's one of the most fantastic memes I think I've ever seen.
I love it.
Yeah.
I haven't slept for days.
What's funny is like if you look at the original trilogy, the stormtroopers got progressively worse at shooting, because in the first like opening scene, like the breach scene when Princess Leia's ship gets like
They take out everybody.
Like they just freaking SWAT team.
Yeah, I think there's like 3 stormtroopers that get shot, but otherwise all of those rebels, they just done.
And then the others, they're like,
it's because Darth Vader was there. And if they had missed, then he would have strangled them.
Yeah. Well,
forced lasers.
He's just working the lasers.
Yeah, he's just working lasers in. It's no big deal.
Vader was a kinky son of a bitch. black leather. You know,
Yeah, that's true.
Hey.
Black leather, metal, and choking.
Hey!
Yeah.
Okay.
Chain around the neck, you know?
Answer me this: why is it always that the bad guys, whether in fiction or reality, dress smart? I mean, Vader, like the Empire, good wardrobe choices. And okay, even get this, even getting more politically edgy here, the Nazis.
Hugo Boss.
What looks better than a Nazi SS uniform?
Well, you know, and the deal is, they want to bury this, but Hugo Boss designed all of the Nazi uniforms because they're a German company. And at that point in time, that was their contract. So
They're gonna hunt you down and say, please take that off YouTube.
there was a massive uproar not too terribly long ago when that fact actually came out that Hugo Boss designed the Nazi uniforms for everything.
And Volkswagen was Hitler's project. So.
Exactly. I mean,
didn't they make the Beetle for him, or did he design it? I don't remember.
I'm not sure.
One of those.
One of the Volkswagen.
That's Hitler's legacy, in case you're positive legacy.
Yeah.
Maybe positive. Depends on your...
Well, I don't know. My dream car has always been an orange Volkswagen Beetle with a soft top, so a convertible.
Nice.
Stick shift.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, Volkswagen also made the Thing. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yes, the Volkswagen thing.
Yeah, the Volkswagen Thing. Those things, my dad, his principal in high school had one of those, and
Nice.
so his class, as their senior prank, they came and you can take those cars apart with a screwdriver.
Yes, you
A
can.
Phillips head screwdriver and a pair of pliers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they took it apart and they reassembled it on the roof.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
Well, on that note, it's about time for another break. So
All right.
Okay,
So we'll see
all right.
you in just a little bit.
We're back.
Hey!
Hey!
Hey! Opa! Damn it! I got that song stuck in my head. It's Zorba's Dance from Zorba the Greek, like that. And it's been stuck in my head all damn day. And the first thing I did when I came down to the shop tonight is I put that on YouTube and we listened to it, and it still won't get out of my head.
We got a thrift shop.
Oh yeah.
Hey!
I despise hippies and hipsters.
Yep.
But you like Macklemore?
I like Macklemore, and I almost feel hipsterous about it because no joke. Do you remember when I first played that song?
It was like 3 months before it actually hit radio.
No, even longer than
Yeah,
that.
well,
But what's funny is that song had been out
wow.
for years. I think it was 2 years or 1 or 2 years.
It's a relatively old song. Yeah.
And so I just think it's funny, and like I found that song, and I'm like, this is awesome.
I knew Macklemore before he was cool.
Yeah, like and
I'm like, damn it! Well,
I don't want to be a hipster, especially about him. You know.
Ironically, and you know, it's sad that we say that because I look around us,
Yeah,
and I see us
wait,
all
wait.
drinking coffee, smoking cigars and pipes with like fantastic facial hair, and talking about all this ridiculousness. And I'm like, well,
It's fantastic in its own way.
But and I sit there thinking about the fact that we're all like, we hate hipsters. But in essence, we do things no one else does. So we're kind of hipsters.
Yeah, I mean, shit.
If any of you have played GTA 5,
Oh, God.
there's this fantastic spiel between two of the main characters about hipsters, and I kind of feel like we fall under the Trevor category of this. There's the way that I described the game. There's three main characters you play as, and your first one's Franklin. He's kind of the easy mode character. All of his stuff's not terribly difficult, and then eventually he intersects with the second main character that you play as, Michael, who's a little more sophisticated missions, things like that. Kind of really sets up the main backstory of the game. And after you get through the Michael missions, you end up meeting Trevor, who's the hard mode. All of his missions are actually quite difficult, but he's a little insane.
He's batshit crazy.
Yeah. He's a little insane. I'm kind of the master of ambiguity around here.
Yeah.
He's a little insane. But there's this massive spiel between Michael and Trevor about Michael pointing out the fact that Trevor tries his best to be nonconformist without actually trying. He absolutely hates hipsters, like, curb stomps them into the ground kind of thing. But in essence, he is exactly what hipsters aspire to be.
Well, there's a difference between adopting a mode of behavior or a fashion style strictly because it's countercultural,
Yes.
Yeah.
and then doing it just because you like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I will agree.
And all of us here do what we do because we like it.
Weirdly enough, though, cigars and pipes aren't in and of themselves countercultural.
No,
Because if you think about it,
they've been around
for a long time they were more cultured than anything else.
Yes.
You
they,
know?
they were a sign of culture.
Yeah, like the high society would be smoking pipes, you know? Like you would see lords and ladies do a little bit of snuff.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well,
And
it all
so-
started about 50 years ago when the Surgeon General finally came out
Exactly.
and said smoking is bad for you.
I was about to say the same
And
thing.
ever since then,
It's
it
become
has
taboo.
been smoking is like the worst thing you can do next to like punching babies in the face.
and
Right?
CVS just recently taking cigarettes and tobacco products out of their stores.
And yet they sell liquor, ho-hos, and ding-dongs.
Yep. Plus, I'm not gonna get into the whole debate of whether or not vaccines are good or bad. Okay? If you feel comfortable doing it, do it. And if you are scared to death of them, don't do it.
Yep.
The few times I have gotten sick from things that vaccines are usually out for have been from getting the vaccine.
Oh,
It
well.
never fails. Like I got the yellow fever vaccine for when I went before I went to Africa. I was so sick that I was like, I mean, there was no color in my face. I was throwing up and nauseous, and it was just awful for the following like 2 or 3 days after I got that vaccine. Right, but you can make that argument. They're a pharmacy, and pharmaceuticals are a very,
They're
iffy subject with regards to health and things like that.
being the business person here, I'm currently in one of my business capstone courses, and it's strategic management, which in and of itself is not a difficult class as far as the subject matter is stuff we've already learned in our previous classes, but it's really the application of pretty much every business class we've had up to date. And one of the interesting, I guess, kind of quirks with business is actually the pharmaceuticals industry, because they don't follow similar business models to everything else. And
They
the
can't.
problem, and that's the deal. The problem is with a lot of pharmaceuticals, and mainly we concentrated on Pfizer. Most pharmaceuticals sink billions of dollars and up to decades in R&D for drugs before they even hit the market, if they can hit the market. So it's an interesting business model in the fact that all of their initial costs are extremely high before they'll ever maybe see a dime in profits, maybe. And so there's a lot of controversy behind, drug patents and pharmaceutical patents, and a lot of the FDA
And the
reneging on
costs for
things,
things.
and the cost. But the deal is looking at it from a business perspective, there's really no other way around it. I can't say that, I necessarily agree or disagree with it. That's not what we're talking about here, but Pfizer is a good example. No pharmaceuticals company as of this point in time actually holds more than like 10% market share. All of them are under 10% market share, as large as each one of them are. But Pfizer, as far as the North American market is concerned, is the largest, with an enterprise value of $200 billion. Facebook right now is only sitting at $135 billion. And how many people use Facebook in the world right now? I mean, the size of pharmaceuticals is insane, but Lipitor, which is right now, Pfizer's bestseller, and the one they're fighting for the most as far as patents and things like that. I want to say they sunk $95–100 billion into research and development, and 15–18 years by the time it actually got out of R&D through FDA approval and out on the market. So for them, it is extremely important to make sure that they can do that. So an interesting point of contention with corporations being viewed as persons as far as the government is concerned.
I will say, it is definitely CVS's right as a company to determine
what I
what they're
appreciate
selling.
is that the private company made that choice.
Yep.
And I support that completely. But I was reading an article, I forget which publication put it out, but the CVS spokesman hinted that it should be mandated, which I took great umbrage at.
Yeah.
Right. if CVS wants to take its tobacco products off the shelf,
Whatever.
more power to them.
Yeah.
But don't force Walgreens to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. I mean, what they're gaining from it is not necessarily anything more than just for their own their own mindset.
Yeah.
Like, we want to feel good about what we're doing, and if we're trying to take a new approach about being all about health and medical side of things and really reaching into that medicinal side and health side, you know, we shouldn't be selling a product that, you know, causes a lot of health issues. And so I get it, but as far as reasons go, it's almost more selfish than anything else.
I think they saw the writing on the wall. I think the political climate with regards to tobacco, I think the executives at CVS saw that they were losing money year after year on tobacco sales.
They're losing ground. I mean,
if the trend continues, pretty soon that money that they were making off of tobacco is going to go away anyway.
They
why
cut off
not
the poison.
get ahead of the curve and market it as, look at what we're doing for our customers.
We're good people.
Right? So that's a way for them to kind of manipulate
the system or the political climate. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
It's a preemptive move.
It is a preemptive move. Yeah. Let's cut off the poison head while we can.
At the same time, I hate to make generalizations because it doesn't hold true for a lot of people. But if you're on prescription meds,
should you really be smoking?
You're probably on prescription meds for a reason.
Why are you going to go
Probably due to poor life choices. Again, this is all generalization, right?
But you know, most chronic illnesses, things like that, you're going to go get, you know, frequent prescriptions.
And so you're going to go pick up your prescription, then you're going to get a pack of smokes, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't do that at CVS, you might go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I do think that it's cyclical in a sense that tobacco products were in vogue and then health concerns were brought up, and the marketplace and just people in general like the idea of smoking something. And so the camaraderie behind it, the community behind it, I mean, shoot, look at what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? And this is all based out of a tobacco shop. You know, so that's where all of us met. Like we were talking earlier, we probably wouldn't have all become friends were it not for this tobacco shop and all of us coming together here.
Exactly.
So people want that. They want something on it. That's why you see like there's been a trend in a lot of hookah lounges as of late in the past couple years because of the communal aspect of it.
Yes.
You see pipe conventions from pipe clubs that
they're social events.
Yeah, they're huge social events with hundreds of people, and it's all coming together over like a shared common interest. And now with these e-cigs and vape stores and all this stuff, people just like the act of smoking something.
Yeah.
And eventually people are just going to keep trying to find ways to sell that type of experience more than anything else.
Whether it's the coffee shop phenomenon.
Yeah.
And if you look at
the smoke shop
phenomenon. If you look at the birth of the middle class, and you look at especially the Enlightenment period, where we get all these fantastic philosophical ideas, is when we actually started to have a middle class, and people could afford luxuries like coffee, like smoking, and they'd come down to some sort of communal area, and they'd shoot the breeze, and they'd jib-jab, and boom! We had a huge intellectual explosion, and just the ideas that, you know, were created in the coffee shops, in the smoke shops.
Yeah, coffee shops and bars where great ideas were founded.
The interesting side of that, there was an academic journal article, and I forget what it was from, and it was talking about biological and scientific creativity, and how do researchers go about maintaining that. And they mentioned how, like, Charles Darwin would go out for walks during the day, and he would just walk around the grounds of his home for hours on end, just thinking, right? Yeah. And there'd be a lot of people, you'd see great professors or scientists, they'd smoke pipes. and they'd be sitting there for an hour or two, just smoking their pipe. Now, pipe smoking is a ritual.
Yes.
There's a lot of ritual behind it. Like if you saw me like the 3 or 4 match method, like that took a while. It's a ritual, right?
That's pretty much an everyday occurrence.
If you're sitting in like if you're
takes a minute.
if you're a professor somewhere at a university and you're just sitting in your office thinking of research to do, or you've just read an article and you're digesting what you read and you're trying to think of a way to apply it to what you're doing, and you're just sitting in your office with your feet up on your desk, and your supervisor comes by, like the head of the department comes by and looks in, and you're just sitting there kind of staring off into the distance thinking, it's going to look like you're doing jack shit.
Yep.
Right? You're not doing anything. You're not doing your job. Well, while in fact you are doing your job, you're actually trying to come up with it, right? So you have a pipe, and the article is like, we're not trying to promote smoking. However, if you have a pipe and you're sitting there and you're spreading out the tobacco and rubbing it out in your hands and letting it dry and preparing your pipe and cleaning it and running a cleaner through it, that's about like a 5-minute little thing right there. Then loading the pipe is another 2 or 3 minutes there, and then lighting it, getting that first char. Yes, the false light, the first char, and then you have to kind of baby it almost. Like you have to keep it going. You have to maintain it. Now, some pipe smokers love the idea of couple matches, get it done, and then you don't have to worry about it.
And forget.
Yeah, but to really keep a pipe going for an hour, maybe even 2 hours if it's a big one and you're not puffing too constantly,
you got to do some work.
It takes some maintenance. And so if you were to have the same department head walk by and you're sitting there loading a pipe and smoking it, right? And this is back when they allowed smoking in buildings, and it wasn't, you know, oh my gosh, I'm on the first floor of a building and someone on the 3rd floor in their office is smoking a pipe. This whole building is contaminated with smoke. Right? This is back when you can do that. And it looks like you're doing something, at least.
Yeah.
You have a journal article and a book open and you're thinking and you're reading.
You're at least doing something.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing something because you actually are doing something. While at the same time, you're being able to spend that little bit of time in a thoughtful status, like state, you know? And so it's interesting. I feel like that sort of sitting and thinking isn't encouraged as much.
No.
And
well, I mean, look at the speed in which we move in today's society. I mean,
instant gratification.
Instant gratification. I mean, we have cell phones that connect to the internet, you know, instantaneously. I mean,
shit. We were talking about Disney movies with both parents, and you looked it up instantly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it took me what, 17, 20, you know, 17, 15, whatever
a few
seconds, you know, nothing.
So, well,
I was actually doing that a lot at work yesterday. A guy was looking for a lot of music to fill a jukebox that he's getting for his big game room that he just built, and he was like, "Well, who sings this?" Well, I'll look it up. Well, who sings this? Well, what does this person sing? So I looked it up, and I did that 20 times throughout the day, and it was just all boom, instant.
You know, a good example of that. You know, my phone. I have being the techie here. I have the Google Nexus 4, which is a little older phone, but it's the one of the flagship phones from Google. So it actually comes with what's known as just a stock ROM Android. No wrappers that you get like when you get a phone from Samsung through AT&T or something. You've got AT&T apps on it. You've got Samsung specific things like that. It doesn't have any of that. And one of the widgets it actually comes with is what's this song?
Oh yeah.
You know, so as long as I have internet connection and you know pretty decent volume, which even then I've tested it at places with you know where I can hardly hear it, and you know within 5 to 10 seconds, I can know exactly what a song is, who's sung it. I can buy it from the Google Play Store by just tapping it.
Yeah.
Similar to Shazam.
Yeah, Shazam. You know, I mean, things like that. The amount of information we have at our fingertips nowadays is insane.
And I think that's wonderful, but I also feel like that has really cut down on exploratory things.
Yes.
Like, you know...
I can't go out and learn it for myself because somebody's already done it, so I can just look it up.
But even then, like... especially with academic property.
Yes.
And things like that.
These are almost replacing libraries. You can Google search anything.
Well, yeah, you used to have to go to the library, get an encyclopedia, right?
Encyclopedia, or do research
in
books on the topic.
People used to be the banks of knowledge.
Yes.
Now it's the
Servers.
Now
yeah.
that knowledge is now at everybody's fingertips.
Servers, data farms.
It's
via
it's
a
both
smartphone.
a leveling thing
Yes.
at the same time, but I also feel like it's in some ways dumbed us all down.
Oh, I agree. Because you used to have to memorize all that. You used to have to know it. And now you don't necessarily have to.
I mean, I with my degree, I'm a programmer by trade. I can tell you that whenever programming languages first started, and with the first and second iteration of a lot of programming languages, there weren't many programming languages, but the people who learned them and the people who knew them like the backs of their hands.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you have lots of programmers that are very well versed in multiple languages, but we no longer have to memorize and know languages like that.
Yeah.
If we have something, go wrong, we have Google, we have Stack Overflow. I mean, we can go find solutions easily.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. It has given us an insane amount of knowledge, but it's shortened our retention for that knowledge.
Yeah, and I feel like beyond that, the weight of just general knowledge has been decreased. It used to mean something that you knew something that someone else didn't. And I don't want to sound elitist in that regard.
Right.
Well, because you don't want to be like, oh, you don't know this.
No. But it's you could go to somebody and they are an expert in this area.
Yeah.
You can sit down and talk to them and learn something that way.
Well, I mean, looking at biology and things like that, I get text messages or pictures sent to me, or random people coming up to me and be like, hey, what's this organism? What's its name? Where's it found? Stuff like that. I mean, I get pictures of snakes, of different small mammals, different insects, arachnids, things like that. And now I have a general idea of what they may be, but as you go through school, it's kind of like you start in kindergarten age or like first grade, and you start really narrow, like addition. And science is, like, that's a rock, and that's a plant, and that's an animal, right? And it just sort of broadens until you get to secondary school, like high school age, and then real broad when you get to college, and that's when they want to start honing you in again.
Yeah.
And then undergraduate school, like your bachelor's degree, you start to get capped again, and then master's degree even more, and then a PhD is a real thing. So by the time I get my PhD, I'm going to have an even narrower knowledge base than what I had initially started with my secondary education, like my higher education career. And so I feel like people lose the sense that that's how things are, because you're just not expected to do that anymore. You're expected to know everything because everyone can.
I know, I've actually ran into this problem at work. I work in IT, so this actually in certain companies is kind of a misnomer, because there is a very real difference between information technology and software engineering.
Yeah.
And a lot of people group software engineering underneath IT, which is not necessarily wrong. I mean, it's all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares. It's the same way. So for me, I'm one of the few in the department that actually, about to have a 4-year degree. I actually have a degree, but on top of that, I'm the only one with a programming background. And so I've been tasked with fixing some things that were written well before I was there by someone else first in a different language than I am. But because of my background in programming, they expect me to know it, period.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that I don't know the language at all, and that it's written very poorly, and it sucks in general. That doesn't matter to them. The fact is, oh, you're a programmer. You must know what this is.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a burden, and it really is, and it's an ugly burden, because
I also feel like that's harkens back to the idea that a piece of paper says you know stuff.
yes, exactly. That's not the case at all.
Well, how that relates to me, I guess, is like, for me, people see a piece of art, and they're like, oh, who did that? Or they ask me, who did this, or who did that, or what did this person do?
You can give a generalization.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be like, well, generally speaking, is just.
I know it's old.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Like if you have some background in art history, you may be able to tell when it was made.
My degree is not in art history.
Exactly.
It's in art. I can make pretty shit. I make pretty things, and I make them for people's enjoyment.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's a good way to express my interests, my passions, and
There you go.
And that's what art is in a lot of ways. But it's not always knowing
Yeah.
exactly what somebody did
No, like,
200, 500,
And
however
if you
many
see a
years
pretty
ago.
piece of art, does it really matter who made it?
Right.
No. No, you know.
Just
You
appreciate
know,
it.
I mean, I guess for an example, looking at all of us here, you could say any one of us is maybe not an expert, but well versed in
In a
history,
topic.
politics, literature, geography, geopolitics, all kinds, these different ideals and thinking styles and whatnot. But we can all do that because of the internet. Whereas you see people like Benjamin Franklin, who is very, very well versed in literature, a very talented orator, a scientist, a politician, a statesman. He did all these things. He didn't have the internet. So to me, it means so much more that he was able to accomplish as much as he did, considering the resources he had available.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay, so while we were talking about that,
I was doing surgery.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. and,
Dr. Jones, what have you found?
Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones, Dr. Jones.
First, let me say that it was an enjoyable cigar.
Yeah.
The bitterness didn't start to creep in until probably about the last third. Even then, it wasn't overpowering.
I'm not tasting any bitterness.
I'm not left with that nasty, gross, overly
Oily
tar,
feel.
saturated
Make you want to just stop
cigar.
it.
So in that respect, it's a good cigar. So I took it apart. Here's our Maduro wrapper, very toothy again, some prominent veins. Our binder, and sure enough, our filler. It is short filler. I mean,
Yeah.
there it
you
is.
go.
So it is a short filler cigar. I don't know if that's going to turn. See, this is part of the filler. So that's sizable.
Yeah.
But all the latakia is definitely smaller.
Yeah. Not necessarily ribbon cut, but it's a lot shorter.
Right. As well as even some of the
Yeah.
main constituent filler. So if that's a turn off to you guys, that's just a heads up. I don't think it should be.
No.
I think
No.
if you are a pipe smoker and you like English blends,
You should very well try this.
I
like
think
it.
you should try this.
I think even if you're not necessarily a pipe smoker, this is
It's been a very
something
pleasurable smoke.
unique, and I feel like going out and trying things like that is it's nice to be able to broaden your horizons a little bit and get a little and get a little bit of a different view of what is out there. So it's worth it. Like
I'm very
I said,
impressed.
it's who is the maker again? I forget.
Okay, so Spectre is the brand name.
Spectre. Yep.
AJ Fernandez is the blender.
There you go.
Reputable blender.
Yeah, and you
makes
can
really
get
good
you
stuff.
can get this currently right now. Pipesandcigars.com.
And Cigars International.
That's right, and Cigars International.
So I guess they're technically
Same.
about the
Same people,
Yeah. And it was about $50 for this box of 10, so about $5 a stick.
Right. So you there are a lot worse cigars for $5.
Oh, yeah.
I will definitely say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was enjoyable. So I guess that
It's a good place to wrap it up.
wraps it up for tonight. We've enjoyed a nice smoke. We've enjoyed some nice discussions, and
Yeah, definitely.
we'll come back next time
week.
and perhaps next week. Now, if you have any ideas for what you'd like us to talk about,
Like to hear our opinions, like
Yes.
to hear anything.
if you have specific questions about any of our different fields,
We're full of opinions.
Never short on
Yeah.
Never short on
Yeah,
to say.
my grandpa says the old Yiddish term for philosopher is a philosoph. It translates to a bullshitter.
Yeah.
And
We can all do that.
yes, very well.
If you
Well
can't-
versed in the art of bullshit.
I don't know if you can see it, but we all have big gum boots on right now because we have to wade through that
Yeah, we
shit
do.
that we all pile up.
Yeah, if
Here.
you can't dazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit.
Yeah,
Kind of our mantra here.
yeah, it's kind of a
It
slips under the radar, but thank you so much for stopping by. This has been Through the Smoke, and hopefully we'll see you again.